Yo, hey, listen, I love it here. I love it here. Listen, um, I'm new to this whole online discourse, right, for games and everything, and it's fascinating because here is the thing. Since I got into it recently, relatively speaking, I felt like the kid that was born in like the 90s or the 2000s. And maybe you're watching a football game and it's Manchester United versus Manchester City or something, and you're having a good time. You're getting into the competitive atmosphere, right? Into the sport. And you're there, you're watching with your parents, you're watching with your aunts, your uncles, and while you're watching the game and you are focused on this game, they are talking about the great games that came before. They're talking about this World Cup or this moment, things that happened before you were born or before you were old enough to pay attention. And you're like, really? Was it like that? They're like, yeah, man, it was like that. When he scored that goal, it wasn't just for himself or for his team, it was for the nation. You're like, Maradona, yeah? Then you have to go back. You have to go back in YouTube, you have to go back in history, and then you watch those flashpoint moments in the history of the sport, and you're like, wow, I missed out on that. Like it's gone. It will never happen again. And I didn't get to be there on the ground level. That's kind of how I felt when I came into the online gaming discourse. I'm talking, discussing PlayStation versus Xbox versus Switch versus PC. And everyone is telling me that of all the great moments that came before, the 2011 PSN hack, wow, that must have been it. 2006 with the PS3 release, wow, what a moment that must have been a part of. Again, I was born obviously, but I wasn't paying attention to this, you know. So many moments, those E3 moments, like for example, E3 2016, one of the greatest E3s from PlayStation ever put out. And I wasn't part of that discussion. I didn't even know that there was a community that was dedicated to actively discussing, debating, going back and forth, the competitive nature, of the competitive nature of the console war. None of that was I aware of. None of that actually ever registered. I didn't even think that that would be a thing. You might be like, well, how? But I may have thought that, there will be forums, of course. There will be a community that would rally around one brand versus the other. But what Twitter is, right? What console is, what that is, right? The gaming discourse as a whole on Twitter, on Facebook, on, what, TikTok now? Um, all of that, I was completely oblivious to. And man, so many great moments I missed out on. So, can I just say, I am so thankful to have been I've been a part of a flashpoint moment in gaming. Finally, this is my first one. This is my first flashpoint where there was lots of heated tension, there was debates going back and forth, there were insults being flung. It was just an all-out war. And oh my god, it was the best fun. It was the best fun. And I found myself caught up in the middle of it. Like I wasn't the only one to deride PC gamers. I wasn't the only one to make fun of you little bitches. But hey, listen, at least I was one of them. It felt like that great tennis match where you were like front row there in the bleachers. Like you were there, you were in it. Like the camera was panning and one of the spectators was you. Like 20 years from now, you can just put out those tapes and you can be like, son, your father was there. That one great moment where that one great player broke that one great world record. They were there in the audience, in the seats, seeing it live, and you see the reaction on the face. Oh my goodness. I have loved it. So, of course, we're talking about, Helldivers 2 and the fact that PlayStation is weak. They were made to look like the weakest, most ignorant, really thoughtless. Really thoughtless. There's no denying it. PlayStation looks weak for having capitulated to the demand of these PC whiners and just terrorists. That's what they are. And hypocritical too. Hypocritical because the amount of effort it took for most of these people to leave 200,000 plus negative reviews compared to creating a free PSN account and linking it is tremendous. That is a tremendous amount of hypocrisy. And listen, PC gamers, first, let's talk about the positives. Okay, we're just going to get all of the positives out of the way because I think it is important to do that. Number one, you won. I'm not going to take it away from you. I'm not going to put it. I didn't think you could do it. I didn't think you would do it. I never thought in a single moment that you would do it. I thought that there would be compromises, but you flat out, outright won. And that's amazing. And I'm not taking that away from you. No going two ways about it. That's great. You deserve the win. You made it happen. Bravo. Now, let's talk about how you won. Number two, I want to say something. There is one legitimate argument. The legitimate argument is there are people that have been sold this game in countries where PlayStation Network is not supported. And there's a lot of things that go into that because that's right. You should not sell a game having a certain requirement when you know yourself that you will not provide the ability for the person to actually fulfill that requirement. It will be the equivalent of a person being sold a product that they have to come and maybe they have to pick up. And then you tell them that, hey, the factory, the pickup point, where you're supposed to get this product, is on private property and no one is allowed on it. Then it's like, why did you sell me the product? Because I physically am not allowed to go and pick it up. That is the only legitimate argument in this entire conversation. Everything else was just whining. Everything else was just tears for no reason. Just hypocritical stuff. Now, let's talk about the bad. The problem with the legitimate argument is that it was a disingenuous take. And it was disingenuous because, again, 95% of the people complaining and using this argument as their singular bludgeon were not actually in countries that were affected by it. If you're not in an affected nation, it is hypocritical. And when you are putting 6, 7, 10 tweets, when you're quote tweeting, when you're sending death threats, again, things that are going to take far longer than creating a PSN account wheel, it looks kind of sus. That's the thing. And I know, of course, they are the social justice warriors. Right? Everybody's a social justice warrior now. That's the funny thing. People hate certain terms until it is, good enough for them. And then they fully get it. Because a lot of people were like, well, I'm not, I live in London and I'm not affected by this. But my friend that lives in Kazakhstan or whatever, yeah, he can't play. Suddenly everybody had, like everyone from the third world in China. Everybody's such, man, listen, man, my friend in Cameroon, man, he won't be able to play with me anymore, man. That's not fair for him. That's why I'm standing up. Yo, 177 countries, right? Most of you couldn't even name the capital city of 5 of those. Like, yo, hey, listen, you know what? All is fair in love and war. And clearly, this was an act of war that Sony put forward. And therefore, all is fair, right? Like, it doesn't matter whether this is a disingenuous take, whether it's actually super hypocritical of you. Didn't matter at all. So it, I can admire the spunk. But we can admit it is a disingenuous take when for 90+% of you complaining, this would not have actually impacted you at all. And you were not actually standing up for the common man. You just didn't want to be inconvenienced in a way that for some reason you find problematic. I don't get it because you take a look at a lot of other companies, Rockstar, Ubisoft, Microsoft, EA, a lot of their games have the exact same requirement. And there is no, there is no backlash against it. Now, I've been listening to podcasts, right? Because this has been a hot button issue. This has been a flashpoint moment. Everybody was talking about it. So one great point was made by my friend, Doc Dark, if I can call him friend, that might be a stretch, but let's just roll with it. And he said a point that made a lot more sense, besides the besides the actual legitimate argument that certain people were being sold a product they could not legally access, his point was that PC gaming is so goddamn annoying that any extra step, any extra ounce of more, just one more sliver of slightly more inconvenience, slightly more annoyance after you've dealt with the BIOS and the graphic cards all day, and the NVIDIA control center and the motherboard BIOS that is different somehow, and the fact that Asus still hasn't fixed mine, and it's just the USB cables not being plugged in the right way, and you try it this way and then you try it that way, and both ways don't work somehow, as if there was a third way, then you go back to the first way and that works. After you do all of that, then you've got your little keyboards and your little mice that you spent 17 hours researching, but somehow you couldn't find that PSM was required even though it was written on the store page. After you've done all of that and you have just put yourself through all of that rigmarole, the fact that someone would tell you like, hey, you're going to need one extra step, that is so goddamn annoying, you're going to lose your mind. So really, this isn't an indictment on the game or the requirement. It's an indictment on the entire PC gaming experience. And that made a lot of sense to me because I have a PC. Even though people want to say like, oh, you don't have a PC, or they're like, oh, we doubt that you do. And I'm like, no, I do. It's actually on my Twitter. You can go and find the post I made about it. It's right here. I put out the specs. It's like I said, it's a middle lane PC. Not a master race, but only one component away from the master race. I was supposed to clean my glasses. It doesn't matter. So the reason that I don't play on PC is precisely because it's so frustrating. I have the mice, I've got the keyboards. How many keyboards do I have? I think I have one and a half because I have a Razer half keyboard thing. It's in the back over there. Um, have the mice, have the monitors, have the computer. Can play games, at whatever resolution I choose. Right, that is the benefit of PC. And with 3070, pretty good. It's pretty good. It's a decent PC. But it's just so annoying playing on PC. I hate it. I hate every part of it. I I think that Steam is the best PC launcher. I don't think that it is the best gaming launch experience for me. Like the interaction with the gaming. Um there's just something about it that I just find pulls me away from the games. Compare that to consoles, even the Xbox. As much as I don't like the dashboard that literally has ads at the bottom. Uh Faster. It's a lot more gaming centric. Like you get in there and it does its best to go out of its way to make the gaming experience as immediate as possible. In fact, the Xbox console with quick resume does this even better than the PlayStation 5 because it allows you to suspend other games so that if you're one of the people that likes to maybe have like a serious game like a Final Fantasy, or when I say serious, I don't mean in tone, I mean in terms of like involvement and depth, and perhaps you also enjoy having a light-hearted game, something that you can just play 5 minutes here and you don't have to think about an entire quest line that might take an hour and a half. And you like to have those things going back and forth. Quick Resume with the Xbox is an even better example of what I'm talking about in terms of the lack of friction that you experience when it is you turn on the device and you get into the game. It is a straight pathway. You know, PlayStation does its best as well. PlayStation does its best as well to simply move out of your way when you are talking. When you start the device and then you get into the game. It does its best. It doesn't do as good a job as Xbox when it comes to having multiple games in the shuffle, but it does a better job, I think, when it comes to just having a singular game. So that makes sense. Or at least it does just as equal a job. I'm not gonna say it's better. It does just as equal a job as Xbox when it's just one game that you have and you're just gonna play that one game for a while. PC isn't like that. PC doesn't have a suspend mode, like not really. I guess you could minimize the window, but then you're still hogging resources in the background, and it's never really a pleasant experience. I've tried it before, never really liked it. When sometimes, most of the time, when I used to play on PC, and you will try to minimize the window and have the game running, it just weird, quirky things will happen. It's not a great experience to play on PC. It really isn't. I think that if a lot of PC gamers actually were to play more on console, they would demand that some of those console features, some of those, like for example, Steam Big Picture mode, like that's kind of like a console, more console-like equivalent to the experience. I think they would demand that that improves, but that is neither here nor there. Let's get back to the main topic. The main topic is that PlayStation looks weak. And PlayStation looks weak because they took the one particular thing, okay? And first, I don't know, how did you guys not think that this will be an issue? You guys have a terms of service that heavily suggests that people violate it if they mark their region of their account in a place that you don't actually offer it at. And this kind of speaks to the antiquated way that Sony sees the whole PlayStation account because they are essentially region locked. I remember a video, I think it was a couple of years ago, by Alana Pierce, and she talked about moving from Australia to the US. And she basically said that she couldn't transfer over her PlayStation account because she had started it in the United States. It was pretty much tied. So she had started her PlayStation account in Australia and she was moving to the United States. And she said it was pretty much locked to Australia. She couldn't just transfer her credit card information over, or she couldn't just change her region or update her address. Which is a really weird thing that I think comes from the Sony DVD days. Like this reminds me of like when you would, I don't know if they region lock DVDs anymore, but there were times when you had DVD players where if you were in Africa and you tried to buy a DVD from Australia or Europe or India or the United States or vice versa, um, you would have to ensure that that DVD was coded to work in the region that your DVD player was set to. And you couldn't change that. You couldn't change where your DVD player thought it was or which region it was kind of like assigned to. And you couldn't change what the DVD, actually supported. So even though you bought the disc legitimately, you had the data on it, the two wouldn't talk to one another because of this arbitrary lock. And I feel like that is a similar thing with the PlayStation Network. It is arbitrarily locked to a region, even if you are not interested in actually buying services from PlayStation. That's a part that doesn't make sense to me. So for example, if you were to create this free PSN account, why did you have to put in your address? Why did you have to put in your credit card information or anything else that would tie you to a particular region? Why isn't it just like an overall global, like free basic layer of this is your PlayStation account? You can create it wherever in the world. And then maybe at a later time, if you want to purchase PlayStation Plus, now you will need to be in a region that supports PlayStation Plus. Now we'll ask you for your credit card information and your home address or whatever it is. I guess they do this so that people do not just spam the PlayStation Network. I guess it might be to prevent like DDoS attacks or whatever. But that is a very antiquated way to go about it because even a place that requires your credit card information, take a Netflix. When I take my Netflix account, and if I were to move to the United States, I can keep my Netflix account. I can update my credit card information. I can update, my settings or whatever. But even if I'm just traveling for like 6 months and I'm going to different continents around the world, if I land in Turkey and I access my Netflix account, it will give me the Netflix Turkey library. If I go to Egypt, it will give me the library in Egypt. If I go to France, it will give me the French Netflix. But the point is, my one account with my one region and my one home address doesn't stop me from accessing it anywhere I want in the world that has internet access and, I guess, good streaming quality to Netflix. So they need to change that because this is not just an issue for this particular instance where it would have removed that particular complaint, but it's also an issue for any PlayStation gamer that does want to move and is heavily dependent on the digital library. And if they are moving for a month or two, I guess it doesn't really matter. But if they're going to move wholesale and land in themselves in another nation that is somehow region locked, which is an arbitrary thing that most people wouldn't think about, yeah, they need to fix it. And I think that was a critical error. And they should have thought about it. And they should have realized this before Helldivers 2 was ever like the first trailer was promoted. They should have sat down and they should have said, hey, we want people on PC to create a PlayStation account mandatorily, because that was actually in the terms and conditions. And therefore, we need to really think about what that experience will be for all of the places that Valve sells the games. Because at the end of the day, you're not controlling the storefront. You're working with a partner to put the game on their storefront. And if they have a more global audience than you should have had conversations with Valve being like, hey, you can't sell to these regions because we do not support them. Or you can sell them to these regions and we will take care of the thing in the back end to make sure that those people can meet our mandatory requirement and also access the game. So that is weak from PlayStation. The second weak thing is that you capitulated to people who are, let's face it, they're using terrorist tactics. A lot of them sending death threats, a lot of them sending threats of violence. Like, people send me threats of violence. What did I do? 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 Why? Because I mocked you? Because I say PC gamers are crying bitches and whine baby? They are. They are. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. Again, these are the people that left like 200,000 plus negative reviews. And lo and behold, all of those reviews, even the singular one, really, even if you just put a thumbs down, it probably took you just as much time as it would have taken you to create that free PSN account. Because again, for 99% of you, give or take, this was not an issue. You had no legitimate claim. Your only claim was that you didn't want to do it. And that makes you a little bitch. Why? Because you signed the agreement. Because in all of this PC superiority, you know how PC players love to think that they're superior? You know, they will happily tell you that they built the PC and they assembled it with parts from like 7 different manufacturers, and they did all of the things, right? But then you take a look over here, and right here, it says there that it requires a PlayStation account. And this was always there. This was before you could even pre-order the game. It was always there. So you PC gamers that apparently can put together RAM, whether it's DDR4 or DDR3 or DDR5, you know everything that goes about it. You know about the clock speeds. You know about this and that. You know about this 3070 from Asus versus the one from MSI, the different cooling techniques. You know about Noctua fans versus the new maglev fans versus this and versus that. You do all of this in-depth research, but somehow you don't have the intelligence to think like, here's a requirement I will have to adhere to. Even though, again, it is not the first requirement of its kind. So no, I will not give you any leeway because that's dumb. And then there's the stupidest argument I've heard. And this is one that WeForge Gaming Lono also made. Oh, it wasn't mandatory at launch. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Why? Because you still agreed to it. If you and another party have a contract, and in that contract are certain terms, and those terms require you to deliver a certain thing or to adhere to a certain agreement, and you sign that contract, therefore it makes it enforceable. And then months later or weeks later or even years later, the other party says that, hey, you did not fulfill the terms of our contract. Now we're going to take action against you. You can't just say, oh, it's been 3 months. You should have done it at the beginning. No, that's not how it works. You still signed the agreement. It's not even hard to understand. That is not a defense. To say that, oh, they're doing it 3 months later, it doesn't matter. It's still something that you signed and you agreed to. Like, it's still bitch made. It is. Like, imagine if you signed a contract with a construction company, right? Home builders. And they were to build you a home. Okay? But you're well off. You're well to do. You're also busy in your life. And that home is a luxury holiday house. So they build it and eventually they tell you it's done. They send you a few photos and you're like, wow, great. It's looking fantastic. I can't wait to go and experience it. And so a few months go by, you get some time off work, you take your friends, your family, and you go down to your new luxury home. And you find out that the second bathroom was never complete. Matter of fact, it was never built. But this is 6 months down the line. And then you contact, in all of your fury and righteousness, you contact that construction company And you say, what the hell is going on? I paid for this bathroom. It is part of our contract, and yet it doesn't exist. Do you think that they have the right to be like, well, dude, I mean, if you've done this week one, we'll understand. Like, what, like, but really, 6 months later, like, come on, chill out. No, it's still a contract and they still signed it. Just because you decide to enforce the terms of the contract later on doesn't somehow preclude them from agreeing on the stuff. It doesn't exempt them. It's not an exemption. It's such a dumb argument. We don't even have to explain why that's dumb. It's just dumb. So again, that was the dumbest argument that I've seen rather intelligent people otherwise make. And it's disappointing because it's like, it's the bitch made PC player in you. It's just a little child that doesn't want to do things. So you're like, oh, but what about this? It should have been there day one. Like, yeah, it was there day one. It just wasn't enforced day one. And that brings it to the other point. Arrowhead, the CEO, I like him. I really do. I think he's a great person for the community. But he said that it was his decision at the end of the day to not make it mandatory while they were working through those issues. And you should have. You should not have ever let people sign up to this thing with a mandatory requirement that you decided to make optional for a bit, and you did not communicate to the people that there was a grace period while you were doing this, but that they will eventually need to do that. In fact, I think the grace period never makes sense because they were always going to be upset. Because guess what? Most PC gamers are not as intelligent as they think they are. They truly are not. And the thing is, they were never going to read whatever notice you were going to put out. Even if you have put out tweets, be like, hey guys, this is a grace period, this will be required. Even if you've done it every single day of every single week up until this moment. Or a lot of them will have come back to you like, man, I wasn't aware of this. Man, I didn't know. Yes, I clicked 5 times to go past go and be like, yes, I accept, and start the game. And then they would have complained anyway. So you should never have taken off the grace period. And that was an L on you. And yes, you have apologized for it. So, I'm not going to go after you. But this moment is interesting. At the end of the day, PlayStation looks weak. And they look weak because from now on, I don't think that you can do what it is that you wanted to do with the PC community. I don't think that even if you come out with another game, let's say Marathon, right? It's from Bungie. It is meant to be on all platforms, and it's meant to be, of course, on PC. So when that game comes out, if you wanted to make it mandatory to have a PSN requirement to play that game, even if you communicate it, even if you make it so that people can only purchase it in countries where that will be supported, no matter how you try to go about it, these people now know that they can just cry and they can just wind their way past it. You look like a little bitch. That's what they made you. And now pretty much all of your PC games, all of your live service games, they have to have it as an optional requirement. Which is like, again, why did you do it? If you were going to make this a requirement, you should have stuck to it, or you shouldn't have bothered in the first place. It always should have been optional. And if you were going to make it optional, then you should have had things like exclusive skins or whatever to entice people to create this 2-minute free account in the places where it's supported. And then that would have been the way to go. But you should have had better thought into what happened here. And you should have done better, just straight up. And since you didn't, the only thing left to do, you should have been more stubborn. You should have been the Sony of old. But this is what happens when when a department doesn't have a head. I like to think that Jim Ryan would not have capitulated. This is why Sony needs like a CEO, and they need a CEO with the brass balls. They do, that are going to stand up against the little crybabies, because that's the thing. It's crybabies, there's an army of them. It's like one of those it's like one of those scenarios where they tell you, like, would you rather fight a singular ant that weighs 2,000 kilos, or would you rather fight like 200,000 ants that weigh like 100 grams each? And that's what the PC gamer are. They are the horde. They are the 200,000 ants. They're the little. And if you let them overrun you, that's what they're going to do every single time. Now, the final point that people had against me, can you believe it? People had issues with me. Why? Why? What did I do? Am I the CEO? Am I working for PlayStation? Am I working for Arrowhead? I just said it was a dumb complaint, and it was, and it still is. Like, what do you want? It's true. Y'all are bitch made. That's true. Accept it. Accept it. And again, just as a caveat, because I haven't made it yet so far, this video, actual PC Master Race people are great. And I had them in my comments. They were like, yep, this isn't a big deal. Because you know what? They're just better. They're just like the actual higher class citizen that PC gamers think they are. They are the ideal. They are great. If you have like a 4090, you know you're good. Actual PC Master Race people, they were fantastic. They were like, yep, not a big deal. You know, I can do it if I choose to, or I will not do it. I had a person tell me, you know what? I don't agree with this. Therefore, I will not be doing it. But I got 765 hours out of Helldivers 2. I've had my time and I've got my money's worth. And they were happy to go. They were like, yep, I'm done. And that is PC Masterclass. That is the actual master race that comes with that class and that refined air. That is the ones I respect. So again, PC gamers that happen to be part of the master race, the reasonable ones, the ones that are actually great. I want you to know this doesn't apply to you. But the rest of the peasants and the peasantry and the crybabies and the whiners, the shoe fits, let it be worn. But people were mad at me because of my personal protest. And again, my personal protest. I didn't ask no one to agree with me. I didn't ask no one to come to my defense or rush to my aid or send death threats on my behalf. I simply said, a PlayStation gamer is playing a PlayStation game on a PlayStation console. And they have to pay an extra fee to access the functionality of that game because it has no offline mode in a way that people on PC don't. And that's not okay. Because as the person that is part of the primary ecosystem, you should always feel like you are the most important customer. That is still true. And I still stand by my words. And I said, until that is mitigated, until that is fixed, I will not be buying the game. And I still will not be buying the game. Why? Because it's this. All of you PC gamers that are so bitch made that did not know that this was a requirement. You sat there on the store Steam page where it said it right there in your face that this was a requirement. Imagine the experience then of a PlayStation gamer that has never had PlayStation Plus, that goes and picks up this disc from the EB Games or the JB Hi-Fis or the GameStops or the Harvey Normans or the Big W's or the Amazon store listings or whatever electronic and gaming store is in their region. Because they have a PlayStation 5 already, and they pick it up, they cash it out at the cashier, and the cashier isn't going to tell them like, hey, do you know you need PlayStation Plus for this? Even though it says it on the box in tiny print at the back. If you guys couldn't see it, why should they? Why should there be a requirement that they somehow see that this is there? So then they take it home, and then they put the disc in, and then they realize they have no access to any of the game unless they also get PlayStation Plus. So if all of you bitches and whiners can understand that that was a problem for you to create a free account off of something that you signed, then shouldn't you be able to understand that for a lot of PlayStation gamers, they will be caught off guard by it because it's even less visible in the real world, there are even more distractions in the real world. So yeah, that is still my stance. And this was never about me complaining about having to pay for online. I have PlayStation Plus. I've had it for years and it's going to go extended at least till 2025, I think. Either the end of this year or next year, but I think it's next year. I don't have an issue with PlayStation Plus. I don't pay for PlayStation Plus because I want access to the internet. I don't even play that many multiplayer games. The internet access on PS Plus, that's not the perk to me. The perk to me are the games that you get added to the PlayStation Plus, I think Essential Collection. Those games, the PlayStation Plus games, before Essential was a thing, that has always been the draw card for me. That has been the perk. The perk has been the online saves, you know. You can make the arguments that online saves should be free. I agree with you, but they are not, and I value them. Therefore, it's a perk. It's fine. The perks are, what do they give you in I think for me the primary draw card are those like 2 or 3 monthly games. That's the part that I care about. If they got rid of the requirement to have internet, sorry, if they got rid of the requirement to have PlayStation Plus for internet access on PlayStation, I will still get essential because I still care. My primary perk are the monthly games. That's really the thing that I care about the most. So I don't pay for internet access. So it was never about me having to pay to access the internet on PlayStation Plus. That has never been it for me personally. I just think that it's hypocritical of Sony to make something that is essential to play the game that a PlayStation customer bought and lock that behind a paywall. But then on the other side of the fence, it is not locked behind the same paywall. And I was not asking for people on PC to have to pay for the internet. No, nobody should have to do that. I was asking for PlayStation gamers to be exempt for that rule for this one game. They can have free PSN weekends on PlayStation. They've done it. They even did it for this game. They had a free weekend on PlayStation where you could just, buy the disc from the store and play the game without having to have PlayStation Plus. It's clear that they can do it. It is also their storefront and their platform that allow to have advantage. I have people telling me like, oh, if they did it for themselves, they would have to do it for EA games and everything. Why? It's not EA's platform. Like, duh. They don't. They've had free access weekends for people on Apex Legends before. They've done it, I think, for Call of Duty before. So I think they've even done like up to a free week for a particular game where you could just play with that PlayStation Network, which makes a lot of sense. And again, if your major argument is, well, they should just get rid of the requirement to pay for online on console altogether, sure, I agree with you. But that would be your protest, not mine. And again, I didn't whine about it. I said my piece, I put it there, and then people came at me even though they were never tagged. I tagged PlayStation, I tagged Shuhei Yoshida, and I tagged Arrowhead Studios. Those are the 3 people that I thought were going to come and, either ignore it or reply to it somehow, like address it in a separate tweet. Arrowhead CEO came through. He said his piece. Great. Everybody else that came through, I don't know what you were doing there. I don't know why you made it a big deal that I was pursuing. And I never said anyone else should delete the game or PlayStation gamers shouldn't have the games or PlayStation gamers shouldn't support the game. I never made any stance regarding anybody else. It wasn't a movement. It was my personal disagreement with Sony, and that was it. And so people were telling me that somehow I am bootlicking for Sony, which is just such a dumb thing because I'm like, wait, so I disagree with them and I don't give them my money, but that's somehow bootlicking? Like, you PC gamers, you are so sensitive. Your arguments don't even make sense. It's so disappointing. It really is. But in any case, I feel like I need to reiterate. This has been a wonderful time. I've loved it. I have loved every single second of it. I think I want more. I want more flashpoint moments because you take a look at the state of the gaming discourse, and it's been incredibly pathetic. And you guys know, if you watch my channel, that I'm never really talking about like the dev's perspective or anything else. I'm much more interested in the gaming discourse. I'm interested in what the community is saying about a particular issue. And you take a look at what we've been saying lately, and it's drab. I mean, the last flashpoint moment, I suppose, was the whole actually I've been part of one before. The Activision, Microsoft purchase. When you had all of these Xbox fans that were setting up their alarms to wake up at 3 a.m. for the CMA approval that they were so sure was going to go through. And then they didn't. Loved it. Oh my God. How did I forget that? That was the first. Oh, you should never forget your first. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Hey, listen, Xbox gamers, that was a great moment. That was fantastic. And the thing is, they went on to purchase the Activision deal. And then people want to say, like, oh, I lost. Like, I never listen, I never thought that they should be allowed to purchase the thing. My stance was that I disagree with Microsoft being able to purchase a huge publisher like Activision or EA or anyone else. And I disagree with Sony being able to do that as well. Same with Nintendo. I disagree, even with Tencent. I disagree with all of these big companies being able to literally just buy a market share in the gaming space. I still disagree to this day. To this day, I stand by the fact that the FTC, the CMA, they should reverse the decision and they should force Microsoft to a divestiture. I think that's what they call it. They should force them to basically let go of ABK. 100%. That is still my stance. But the point is, in that flashpoint moment, I'm not interested in whether I'm right or wrong or whether this will happen or that. I'm interested in the discourse. And the fact that you guys woke up in the middle of the night and you were so sure it was going to happen and then it didn't. Oh, man. Tears of joy. It's great. Great moment. So this was the same. This was another flashpoint moment because again, the gaming discourse has gone down the drain. People remember what happened just before this issue? We were talking about Stellar Blade being somehow censored. A conversation so dumb I didn't even want to participate in it. I was just like, fuck, I'm tired. I am tired of talking about these things that don't matter. Before that, it was Sweet Baby Inc. Nobody even understands what Sweet Baby Inc. is or what they do. No one understands. I don't know whether they have 100 staff, they have 4,000, 4 million from the state of it. You would think that they have 4 million, wouldn't you? Because everybody's talking about like all of these games have Sweet Baby Inc. infested. They even had lists. They even had lists of every single game that Sweet Baby Inc. Sneezed at. And somehow these were ban lists. People were like, I'm never playing this game because Sweet Baby Inc. did something or some other. Nobody understands. What did they do? What do they do? How involved are they? And whenever the people from Sweet Baby Inc. themselves will try to just say something like, hey guys, we actually just, and they'll be like, shut up. You're the enemy. That was the conversation. And then before that, where were we at? We were at the whole Microsoft, giving the games to Sony. And that was that was a hot debate, but it wasn't a flashpoint moment. It wasn't this, it was like the playoffs between two great clubs. So it was cool. There's fanfare behind it, but it's not a flashpoint moment. It's not the moment where all of gaming, from the media to the fans, all the way up and down the chain, have an opinion, have a say, and are coming together and they are clashing it out. And people are being mocked, people are being ridiculed, tears are flowing, anger is there. It doesn't matter which side of the fence you were on, it was a great time. And now we all have to go home, and I hope, oh God, gaming community, please hear me out, please. Let's not go back and pick up the dumb conversations we had before. Please. Like conversations about if Sony is valuing PC gamers more than PlayStation gamers. I am happy to have that talk because that's a better topic. Oh my God, that's a better debate. That's better than Stellar Blade being censored. How did that happen? Can we just take a moment to be like, how the fuck did that happen? How was that a conversation? How was that a conversation? It was just, oh man, it was so mind-numbing. That's why I didn't post anything. People are like, oh, you have a failing YouTube channel. What was I going to talk about? What was I going to talk about? What? There was nothing worth talking about. It was just so dumb and pathetic. Even BG said he would rather go back to the Activision talk than have to deal with the Stellar Blade talk. And I was like, whoa, he's right though. Those Activision talks were the bane of the earth. They were awful. But they were way more educated, way better. Like Game Pass. I would rather talk about Game Pass. I never understood why people that have Game Pass think that they're so persecuted. My issue is Game Pass day and date. Specifically that component of it. Everything else about Game Pass I think is great. Everything else about Game Pass I think is great. But Game Pass Day ended, I think, ruins games for Microsoft. I still do think that to this day. At one point, that was a conversation topic. And that was great. That was literally fucking amazing compared to Stellar Blade being censored, compared to Sweet Baby Inc., compared to DEI. Oh my god, DEI. Was that supposed to be the thing that we talk about? Really? The gaming conversation was so dumb. Oh, sorry. Alarm. Apparently, I have to be a productive member of society. The gaming conversation was so dumb. It was miraculous. Absolutely miraculous how dumb it was. So please, now that we've had that flashpoint moment, we all got out our AK-47s, our spears, our bows and arrows, we slung words, we fought in the mud, we climbed the tower and we shut everyone down. Some people won, some people lost. People think that they are right and are vindicated, or the people find themselves defeated. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter which side you think I fall on, which side you think you fall on. It doesn't matter all of that. Now that the flashpoint moment has gone and the landscape can settle again, all I am asking is let's please not return to the same dumb topics that preceded this one. Because this was necessary. Oh my God, this was a necessary reset button in the conversation. I think that there are beautiful conversation topics to be had regarding the Sony PlayStation PC movement, regarding the behavior that people exhibited during this thing. There are wonderful conversations for the community to have. I just don't want to go back to Stellar Blade. I don't. I muted it. I muted Stellar Blade because I was just like, I can't. Jay Barry and Persona, two of the people that are on my timeline that I personally follow, that were actually putting out gameplay. But their efforts were just drowned in the sea of stupid things that I saw talking about outfits that were not censored being censored. Oh God. I was exhausted. I was so exhausted to the point that I actually removed Twitter from my phone for a while, only for this moment to happen, and then it was great. So it's been a reset moment. It's been a flashpoint moment. Let's go forward into the community and let's have better conversation topics. Yes, make fun of everybody that you want to make fun of. Make fun of me for some reason because I'm telling the truth and PC gamers are bitch made. It's fine. It's great. It's part of the mud singling. That's the part that I enjoy. It is great. You know, Potterrock77 told me, Emmanuel, if you're on Twitter, don't be trying to have educated conversations. That's what this is for. These videos, I mean, not this particular video, but these videos are meant to be like YouTube, I suppose, allows more space and more, it has a different vibe that can allow better conversations and better discourse within the community. But on Twitter, it's just for the fuckery. So if you guys are making fun of me on Twitter, great. That's what is supposed to happen on that platform. He told me embrace the fuckery and just be a part of it. That's what you're there for. So I love it, guys. I absolutely love it. But the point is this. Let's not go back to the dumb conversations that we had before. Let's have better conversations going forward. We have a lot of things to look forward to. We have Xbox has announced its showcase on June 9th. So that's going to be interesting. It's going to have an interesting conversation. You know, a lot of people make the joke, especially as PlayStation fans, that they want to see, you know, what PlayStation games will be announced there because of the whole Xbox is going to release games on PlayStation and everything. I don't really like to take that approach because it's kind of like, okay, now you're just punching now. No. What I like to think of is the fact that I wonder if these games are going to be ready by 2029, because that has always been my my biggest criticism of any Xbox showcase, which is you just don't know when these games are coming. You know, they show games so early that they show games so early that the developers themselves don't know which game is coming. Like, they don't know what the game they just presented was. Like Everwild, they literally like, yeah, we don't know what this game is yet. We'll figure that out. But you announced it with a beautiful trailer. I'm so looking forward to Everwild. That's why I always talk about it. I think it was such a great trailer that I want to play that game. I will play that game on PC. I will put up with PC just to play that game. Yeah. So we have that to look forward to. Apparently there's supposed to be a PlayStation showcase, but I feel like after what just happened, maybe PlayStation will just delay it. They'll just be like, you know what, let's just clear the air, and then they'll delay that. But that's only if you believe in rumors anyway, which I'm not a fan of. So you guys know that I'm incredibly mistrustful of any rumor. So what I'm saying is that even if the rumors were true before, after what just happened, maybe PlayStation will be like, you know what? No, we're gonna push that back. Or maybe they'll go for the opposite. They'll be like, you know what? Let's reset the air. Let's give them what they want to see so that we can get back into the good graces again. Fair enough. So the point is, there should be a PlayStation showcase at some point. In the next 5 years, there should be a PlayStation showcase that will happen, and we can look forward to that. Hopefully this year, but hey, who knows? Um, we also have a few games to look forward to. There's Hellblade 2. I am incredibly fascinated by what Hellblade 2 will be and what the conversations will be about that 6 months down the line. Because the thing with any Xbox game is that they get so few truly kind of like stellar exclusives that they just overblow it. They overhype it. They they make it too much of a good thing. They promote it too much. They cap for it too much, and you just need to take a moment, a pause, a moment of reflection before you can have true, genuine conversations about the game. Take a look at Redfall. Take a look at Starfield. Take a look even at Forza Motorsport. The hype that was there for those games on day one or week one is the complete opposite now that we are just a few months removed from those games. It's a complete 180 in terms of the public sentiment around those games. So I'm not interested in the Hellblade 2 conversation on day one. I am interested in it like a few months down the line to see whether it actually was a system seller or at least a Game Pass seller, because I don't think it is. I think that Hellblade was always designed as a niche experience, and for people inside of that niche, it will be one of the best, most favorite experiences ever. I think Hellblade is not in my personal top 10 in terms of games, but probably in my personal top 10 in terms of experiences. Like one of those games that actually makes you realize that a thing you didn't think was possible actually is possible. I never thought that you could have a game around psychosis or any mental health trouble of any kind. And this game delivered it in a plum. And I think for the people that are willing to have that experience, it will be one of their most favorite experiences ever. But I do think that is a niche desire. So there's great conversations to be had there. So the point is, what I'm saying is this: let's move forward. Let's have better conversations. And let's just not return to Sweet Baby Inc., DEI, Stellar Blade, and all of those dumb ones. So, oh my goodness, nearly an hour long of just talking, and I love it. Thank you so much for providing the entertainment. I was so glad to be a part of it. You guys are great. It's fantastic. And man, PC gamers are bitch made.